Good morning, everybody. How are you? Happy Friday. We made it to the end of the week, so I am doing well. It's a beautiful day out, and I hope that you are also doing well. I hope that your families are doing well, and that you're doing well also in your data science practice, because after all, that's what brings us together here. We are all here to talk about data science and kind of share in that fellowship of this crazy pursuit of algorithms and predicting the future and everything else that comes with that. So it's so good to see you. It's Friday. It's the end of the week. We're going into a weekend. And I see a couple of people already joining us. Actually, I need to bring up my Instagram chat. I just remembered I didn't enable that. So let me enable that on this stream very quickly. But it's so good to see all of you, and just keep on going here with my my streak of streams that I'm doing here. My aim is to do 100 streams over the next couple of months, so we're slowly getting there. But yeah, just really grateful that I'm gonna be able to spend some time with all of you. So as all of you know, I like to start off with my global roll call. I always like to hear the city, state, country that you're from. I love traveling. I've been very, very fortunate to be able to travel quite a bit, so it's always nice to see where the parts of the world that where I can find other fellow data scientists. And also it helps keep the chat inclusive. That way everybody can feel like they can participate in some way. So I'm seeing people on Instagram. Please don't be shy about introducing yourself. And as always, I also like while I give you guys time to check in and let me know where you're from, I also like to start off with an opening note. So really, today's opening note is not very technical at all. It's really just more an expression of gratitude to all of you and this community for all the great streams that we've been having recently. It feels like for at least the last week, maybe the last week and a half, we've been having some really interesting discussions, really great questions, just really great participation. So I'm just really grateful for all that discussion and all that ability to go back and forth. I'm particularly grateful for it because, it's always a very healthy thing, no matter what stage you are in your data science education or career, to be able to take in other people's perspectives and to be able to kind of appreciate the different views. So we've been having a lot of different discussions we've had guests, we've had discussions on leadership, we've had discussions on development, on coding languages, on processes. So it's really healthy for all of us to spend time together and get each other's perspective on that. So really, today is just more of an expression of gratitude for all of you to contributing to that, because it's really, it just wouldn't be possible without you guys. So, I recognize that and I appreciate that in all of you. On our Discord server, we've also been having some great discussions. People aren't being shy about putting up their questions or responding to those questions, which I think is also healthy, and really glad that we have a good amount of civility in this community. So just wanted to kind of take the time to thank all of you, because it's been really a positive experience for everyone, and I certainly get a lot out of it because I enjoy these live streams, and spending time with you, and it kind of helps me also understand where the greater data science community is, right? Because I as a manager also want to have that perspective, and it kind of helps me grow in my own practice, at my stage of my career. So with that, I'm seeing some people on Instagram, I'm seeing some people on YouTube, and I'm also seeing some people on Twitch. So I want to go ahead and start the going down some of the introductions. And good to see everybody here. So Abe is our first introduction today. It seems like people are trying to compete to be the first one, and Abe is a new entrant into that competition. I don't think he's been first before, but he's putting everyone on notice that he wants to be first. So Abe from Hyderabad, India. Good to see you, my friend. Glad you're here. Sarvesh Padav, hello. Sarvesh here from Mumbai, India. Nice. Okay. Haven't really had a lot of people from Mumbai on the stream, or at least they haven't told us they're from Mumbai. But obviously, I understand that Mumbai is a big city in India. So glad to see you here, Sarvesh. Oh, I didn't highlight his. Yeah. So glad to see you here, Sarvesh. Thanks for joining us today. Rex, our good man in New York City. How are you doing, Rex? Hope you're well out there. Rex is also our moderator on Twitch, slowly growing a presence on Twitch. So shout out to Rex for helping me moderate the items there. You know, Twitch seems to have a lot of the people who are spamming to give you followers or give you watch time or whatever the case may be. You'd think that Amazon would have a better grip on that, right? Because it's not hard to filter out those messages. So I'm surprised that Amazon is so laxical on that. Rohan says, hey, Rohan, how are you? Good morning, Dennis and all. Rohan from Vizag, India. Rohan, you have been a consistent viewer, and I sincerely appreciate that, and hope you're well. Rohan, you know, I'm curious. Let us know a little bit about your background, Rohan. Are you a student? Are you a working professional? Would love to hear from you. Joseph, our good friend, also one of our moderator on YouTube and on Discord. Good morning, everyone from Tennessee. I keep on forgetting to highlight these messages. Geez, you think it'd be my first? You think that I'm acting like this is my first stream or something? Joseph says first place to Abe. Yep, he definitely beat all of us today. Landry, nice to see you. I think you might be a new chatter. I don't think I've seen you before, but welcome. Good evening from Belgium. Okay, cool. What part of Belgium? Do you mind telling us the city? I hear Belgium is a beautiful country. I've been to the countries around Belgium. You know, I've been to France, I've been to London, I've been to the Netherlands, which maybe isn't so close to Belgium. But I've never actually made it to Belgium proper. I would love to go there sometime. But let us know what part of Belgium you're from. Yassine, our good friend. Hello, sir. Yassine from Fez, Morocco. Yassine, you've been a great supporter. Thank you so much for keeping on coming back. Really appreciate you seeing here. Hope you're well in Morocco. Morocco is also another beautiful country that I've been fortunate to visit. Prince Kara, good to see you again, my friend. Hi, he says, hi, Dennis. Prince, remind me where you're from. Was it, I think you're in Europe somewhere, aren't you? Remind me where you're from. Rohan says, I am a Python developer, started learning data science. Oh, really? So you're strictly a Python developer. Okay, cool. In what industry? You know, I'm always fascinated by that because it just doesn't seem like it's very often that you run into somebody who's strictly a Python developer, right? It's mostly I'm Python and I do data science, right? Or I'm a data scientist and I work in Python. It's almost like the two are really connected, right? But obviously I know that Python is much more flexible than that. So I'm always curious to know, you know, like what Python development do people do that don't necessarily involve data science? That always fascinates me. So yeah, Rohan, if you're comfortable sharing that, I'd love to hear more about that. I'm personally interested in that. Landry says they are from Mechelen? 15 minutes from Brussels by train. Okay, cool. Now, maybe I'm going to show my ignorance here, but it feels like Belgium is a small country. It feels like most places in Belgium would be 15 minutes by train, right? I mean, you could probably get across the whole country driving in like half a day, right? I mean, I know it's not that big of a country, but maybe I'm showing my ignorance. Oh, that's right, Prince. You're our man in Birmingham. Okay, yeah, okay, cool. Hope you're well out there. I have no idea what the temperature's out there like, so hopefully you're keeping cool out there. Abe says, I'm working as a data scientist intern at a startup. Okay, nice. Is that like a summer thing? Or is that going to go on into the school year? Let us know more about that, Abby. I'd like to hear more about that. And also, I mean, if you guys want to share like what you're working on too, you know, obviously only share what you can, right? Don't violate your client's privacy or anything like that. But I'm always curious to see what they put the interns on. I personally always found it a challenge to find appropriate projects for interns. So usually I would try to teach them something like agile development and keep them like on an agile schedule, you know, like on 2-week sprints. And that way, you know, they kind of felt a little bit more involved. But it's always difficult to integrate a summer intern into like your overall scheme of things, right? Because also, I mean, you want to make sure that they have a meaningful experience of it too, right? So it's always tricky to do that. So I always like hearing what interns are working on or what they're assigned to. It's hard to find that appropriate level of work, right? So many interns have varying skills. But yeah, but it's so good to see everyone. If you're joining us on Instagram, I see some more people on Instagram. Just let us know what city, state, province that you're from. Would love to hear about it. Prince says it's sunny here, 23 degrees Celsius, beautiful day. Oh, geez, that does sound like a nice day. I wish it was 23 out here. Landry says, yes, it's a small country. You can drive across in half a day. Yeah, I figured as much because I have friends that live in Belgium and they've told me that it's very, very convenient for driving there. You can get to other countries very quickly from Belgium. So in my part of the world, I am based in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is on the west coast of the United States. And the advantage of being out here is that a lot of conferences come through Las Vegas. So it's almost inevitable that I'm going to see a lot of my business colleagues throughout the year simply because, they come through conferences here. So for example, next week, Las Vegas is hosting the AI4 conference. I'm not exactly sure who puts on that conference, but they claim to be the largest AI conference in the world, which I suppose is true. It's kind of a weird claim to make. So next week, I actually have two colleagues. One is a vice president, the other one's a managing director, and they're going to be coming through Las Vegas, and I'm going to have dinner plans or coffee plans with both of them. So that should be fun. But one of the downsides to living in Las Vegas is that it is blazing hot out here. It is so hot during the day. I try to keep to a good diet, but it's so hard to avoid ice cream during these times because when you go out, it is just impossibly hot. Like you almost can't believe how hot it is. But that's what I'm at in my part of the world. The other part I'm looking forward to is that when it comes to be like September, October, it gets nice and cool out here and the skies are clear and it basically never rains in Las Vegas. We get like 2 to 3 days of rain the entire year. So that's a positive. But yeah, right now it is blazing hot. All right, so Abe shares, currently we are working on some optimization analysis, not a summer intern, joined to gain experience in data science. Okay, cool. Very cool. So it looks like it's going to go on for you throughout the year. Some optimization analysis. Okay, that can mean a lot of things. Abe says, prior to this, I was with Amazon as a supervisor, got laid off. Oh, okay. Were you also in a technical role at Amazon or like a support role? Curious about that, but glad to see that layoff ended up in an internship, at least working in data science. That's a positive move, right? Or maybe not. I don't want to assume anything there, but it sounds like a positive move. Rohan shares that they were a back-end Python developer and also work with AWS EC2 service. Okay, so you were probably working on automation scripts for maybe both the cloud and for within the servers themselves. That's what I'm guessing you would do, and I guess that makes sense. Python would be extremely powerful for something like that. Yeah, and come to think of it, I do know some cybersecurity professionals that use Python as a language for a lot of their automation tasks. So that makes sense. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Abe says, yep, it's a positive move. With Amazon, I was in a support role. All right, very cool. Very cool. Okay, so Abe, it sounds like you've got some pretty good things going on out there, right? So that's good. And I'm glad to hear this because I know that so many people are, it's so hard to stay positive through a job search, right? And I know that a lot of you are searching for jobs and maybe not always having the best luck, or maybe not always, having positive results with the interviews. And I know that the whole process overall can be very frustrating with HR not getting back to you and the silly questions you have to answer and all that. But, the jobs are out there for data science, right? We may not always feel that way, but the jobs are out there. So it's good to hear that there's people doing well. I received a wonderful message yesterday from a young man who read my book and is now preparing for his first role in a financial services company. That's going to be a full-time first-year role. So that's really encouraging to hear. Very big financial services company here in the US. And I've been keeping in contact with another friend of mine. He used to be one of my direct reports. I used to be his manager. I was his manager for a while, and he recently moved companies, and he's going to go work for a hedge fund. He got a job with a hedge fund. So it's a great move for him. It's doing more quantitative work, perhaps a better compensation package overall, and things along those lines. He just started that job in the recent past. So the jobs are out there. The hiring is happening. And like I said, for me, I personally feel optimistic over the next year because I'm seeing hiring happening at the higher levels, right? At the director levels, at the senior data scientist level, chief data officer levels, and that will have a trickle down effect over the next year. At least I think so. That's my forecast for it. But if I'm seeing more hiring at those top levels, that will eventually lead to the analyst and the mid-level and the analyst roles increasing in demand, because those directors aren't going to do it themselves, right? They're going to start building out these staffs. So it's good to hear this positive results. I'm going to stay positive, and I hope you do too. SLH, welcome back to the chat. I think I've seen you once or twice before. Welcome back. I'm a first-year university student, found an internship where I'm working on fine-tuning a model for text classification. Okay, very cool. Is this like an existing model, or is this like an LLM model? Fine-tuning can mean so many things, right? In some cases, fine-tuning is very mundane, very straightforward process. In other cases, it can be a very complex process, depending on how you're going about it, right? So I'm curious, can you tell us more about that? Abe says, it's tough to find a job in the current job market, but still hanging on by learning daily. Yeah, Abe, I love that attitude, right? You got to accept the market as it is, but you can only do what you can do, right? And that's improving your skills. So I appreciate that you're taking that attitude of learning daily. That's a good attitude to have. And by the way, guys, I think we had a really great discussion yesterday. I really enjoyed all of us going through that report, because I think there's there's a couple of good findings in that report about jobs. And I think all of you brought an incredible perspective. So I really enjoyed yesterday's stream, really unique. So really appreciate all that participation from all of you. Dennis, quick question. As an entry level, what's the salary of a data scientist in USA? Always curious to know. That's a good question. That's a really good question. And in the US, it varies a lot. It varies a lot according to the biggest variant is probably a geography, the location that you're talking about, right? That's going to be the biggest determinant of salary. Excuse me, sorry. And also, you're talking entry level, so I'm going to assume somebody's straight out of school. So knowing by the people that I've hired and that have worked for me, see, it's hard to say, because sometimes you could be coming out of an internship program, like where maybe you were a summer intern the summer before, and then they hired you for a full-time role. Some of those people end up doing the role of a data scientist, even though they may not be getting an appropriate salary, because the internship programs kind of have like a prescribed salary already, right? Like, this is just what we're paying you. There's no negotiation. We pay the same thing to all our incoming analysts, right? That's very common in some of the larger companies, right? So those people kind of get a little bit of a bad deal, because they come in at this salary level of like an analyst for like any number of jobs, right? But then they end up as a data scientist, right? So that's kind of like unfair to them. And then I also have people that I hire like straight out of school. Maybe they weren't in the analyst program. But overall, Abe, I would say that the range would fall like 85,000 to 100,000, roughly. Like maybe like give or take $5,000 in each one of those directions. So that's what I would say is kind of like the entry level, like first year data scientist roles. There's a lot more that goes into that, right? I mean, you should be thinking about the overall compensation, the benefits that they give you, the location, the manager, the type of office, the travel, right? I mean, all of that should kind of count into your calculations. But roughly speaking, Abe, from what I've seen and what I've hired at, 85 to 100 is kind of a good range to start. That's about right. Also in the US, well, maybe this happens in other countries, I won't just say the US, but in the US, there's also some measures that track what your first year computer science degrees are earning, right? Because most computer science degrees are basically worthless in the fact that they're all the same, right? Like, name any school and you can't distinguish the two computer science graduates, right? They all kind of learn the same things. So that index has been climbing more and more over the past few years as far as what they make out of school. And some of the main companies kind of push that upwards, because everybody thinks they can make like $200,000 first year out of school as computer science, right? Which is not true. But those things have been climbing steadily, but probably not as high as data science. Abe says, cool, thank you. Yeah, sure, no problem. I'm happy to share the things that I've experienced, that I've seen in my career. And if I can't speak on something, I'm happy to tell you that. But that's kind of the way I see it. So Yassine is asking a more technical question. Hello, sir. If you can please give some ideas about the process used for experimentation when training models. It's very computationally costly. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we learned a little bit about that this past week, right? In the Introduction to Statistical Learning class that's happening on Sundays. That experimentation is computationally costly. But that's okay though, right? You're not going to find a model unless you take the time to do that, right? So it's kind of supposed to be computationally costly. You're kind of supposed to have a broad search, right? One of the I don't want to say like dirty secrets, but because it's not inherently bad. But one of the things that a lot of people kind of don't really talk about in data science is that a lot of the data science model development is really just kind of almost like a brute force method, right? It's almost like a Monte Carlo method where you literally don't know what the answer is, so you try every possible answer, right? So that's just like a brute force method, right? It's really not not sophisticated in that way, right? Yes, I know that you can learn from experiments and you can kind of know where it's headed for convergence. I get that, right? But for the most part, maybe particularly in the early stages, you're kind of just saying, hey, I don't know what the answer is. The answer could be anything, so I'm going to try everything, right? And so you're seeing there really is no shortcut for that, because you're right. It is computationally costly. It is time also, right? Sometimes you triple check your code to make sure it's going to run okay, and then you set up your grid search, and then you kind of just walk away. You kind of just leave it overnight or maybe for a couple of days, right? That's totally okay. So I really don't think that there is a shortcut, Yassine, in how you do it. Maybe you could talk about with neural networks. There are some early stopping approaches that you can use, right? You can tell when a model is not headed towards convergence, right? Depending on which way the results are going, you can kind of say, okay, that model is, not likely to succeed. So there are some early stopping things you can do, but somebody can correct me on this, but I'm tempted to say that early stopping is exclusive to neural networks. I don't think a lot of models support early stopping. So somebody can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But it's kind of exclusive to neural networks, right? But yeah, I don't think there's a way around it, Yassine, to be frankly honest. It's almost like if it's not computationally expensive, did you really run a proper search, right? So yeah, I don't know. Yassine, maybe you have a specific use case in mind for you right now that's kind of bothering you, or something that you're trying to get over. If you're comfortable sharing that, let us know. But yeah, it's supposed to be expensive, right? You're supposed to try a lot of combinations. A grid search is a combination of permutations, right? If you have 5 tuning parameters and they each have 7 different values you're trying, then the number of experiments is 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7, right? There's no way around that. So yeah. Maybe there's a particular use case you're comfortable sharing. Let us know. Shafiq says, hi everyone, Shafiq here from Kabul, Afghanistan. Welcome, Shafiq, good to see you. I don't think I've seen you in our chats before, so welcome, joining us on YouTube. Good to see you. So if you're just joining us on Instagram or YouTube, let us know where you're from. We always like to introduce each other just to introduce ourselves rather, just to kind of give us a little bit of the global scope. So Landry says, over here in Belgium, we have academic and professional degrees. So it's interesting studying data science from a professional degree perspective. Yeah. I think that for data science, it's fitting, right? Especially if you're getting the professional degree after an undergrad, which is essentially what I did, right? I have a graduate certificate in applied statistics because I felt like that was a good level for me and it's served me well, right? So I can totally see how there would be data science professional degrees out there that are still effective for getting you into the workplace. That seems like a totally reasonable thing to do. So is that what you're pursuing, Landry? Or are you just making that as a general comment? Let me know. I'm curious about that. Rohan asks, while training, how do we determine how many iterations of training has to be done and at what point is it to be stopped? Well, first of all, it depends on the model, right? It depends on which type of model you're going for. And also, it depends on your baseline model, right? We don't talk, we you know what, we probably don't talk about that enough in my stream, and we should. So you should always have a baseline model, right? And there's no magic to that. You should always just be able to know, like, you can, if you want to, you can just choose whatever your first model is, that's your baseline model. So with the iterations in the training, and depending on what feedback you get through training, because sometimes you don't get any feedback, you can say, okay, well that's headed to a place where it's not going to beat my baseline model, right? You can do that. You can say that, and you can say, well, look, I've run 50 epochs, 100 epochs, whatever, and I'm nowhere near my baseline, so I better stop this. And there is code within Keras or some of the frameworks to help you do that, right? In fact, that's part of the open source contribution that I made. I've only made one open source contribution in my life, and it was to Keras, and it was around early stopping, because I found it annoying that you couldn't compare against metrics that you already knew, right? Or for example, you might be working on a model where you know that you have to have a certain level of accuracy, you know, because the client says so, because government regulation tells you so, right? So there are some pieces of code out there that will help you determine when early stopping kind of automatically kicks in. But again, that's exclusive to neural networks. That may be exclusive to Keras. I don't know how PyTorch handles early stopping, right? Maybe somebody here can explain that, right? But yeah, it just depends. There really is no magic to it, Rohan. Part of it, you know, it's kind of part of the value you add as a data scientist, right? You know, it's kind of something that you kind of like develop a feel for after a while, right? So I hope that helps you, Rohan. If not, let me know in the chat. Ayub Abraham says Morocco. Well, what part of Morocco? Like, it's a big, beautiful country. You can't just say Morocco, just like people say India. You can't just say India. All right, guys, here, I'll tell you something that I share with people about Morocco that always astounds people, okay? So if you're from Morocco, you can't answer this question, okay? So my friends in Morocco right now that are listening, don't answer, all right? And maybe you guys will learn something from this, because I tell you, I share this with people and people are astounded by it, okay? All right, so if you're listening to me, this is going to be audience participation here, okay? So you can't look this up. No using ChatGPT, no using Wikipedia, okay? I want you to give me your first answer. Just whatever you think it is, write it in the chat, okay? And we'll see if anybody can get close. All right? Right now, chat. In the next 1 minute, everybody type in, what is the population of Morocco? Give me what is the population of people in Morocco? Write it in the chat. Nobody from Morocco can participate? Just give me your first answer. What do you think is the population of Morocco? No looking it up. Give you guys here a minute to think about it. But just give me an answer. What is the population of Morocco? Landry says 35 million. Okay. Anybody else? 10 million? 40? 40 people? Come on. Morocco has more than 40 people. There's like 40 people in Morocco in this chat. Come on. Joseph, 5 million. Prince and Joseph came up with the same answer of 5 million. Abhinav says 500,000. Okay. Ishan says 25 million. Rohan says 20 million. Okay. Anybody else? Last call for answers. Bala, read the room, my friend. We're in the middle of a poll. Come on. And no homework questions, Bala. We do not do homework questions on this chat. Well, any of my content, really. All right, anybody else? Last call for answers. Last call for answers. What is the population of Morocco? Nobody else? All right. Yassine, Ayub, give him the answer. What's the answer? Type it in the chat, guys. Type it in the chat, and then you guys can see how close you guys got to it. Well, Bala, I don't know your name if you don't introduce yourself, dude. You can't just walk into a chat and just start asking questions right away. You gotta introduce yourself, man. You know the rules. Everybody knows the rules. Come on. All right, so Yassine, Ayub, give him the answer. What's the answer for the population of Morocco? Are they still on? Maybe they logged off. There you go. Yassine is giving the same answer I thought. Yassine, I thought it was a little closer to like 31, 32 million, but I think you're right. I think it is a little higher than that now. Now, for those of you that gave an answer, how many of you were even close to 38 million? Like, most people do not realize how populated Morocco is. But I think you're right, Yassine. It's like 30 plus. I was gonna say 31, 32, but yeah, it's getting up there. And look at the answers we got: 500,000, 5 million, 25 million, 20 million. It's a lot higher than that. Like, when I tell that to my friends in the U.S., like they can't believe it, right? And like, nobody thinks there's that many people in Morocco. Yeah. Yeah, Joseph, you're absolutely right. I mean, like, you know, most Americans have no concept that Morocco has like 30 million people. And for those of you, you know, who know it, 30 million is also about the population of California. California is maybe a little closer to 40 million, right? But like, it's the equivalent of the population of everyone in California. You tell that to most people in the US, they're blown away by that. They would have no idea. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm not gonna name names. Not gonna name names, but some of you guessed like 5 million, 500,000. But Morocco's a big, diverse country. So Ayub, you can't just tell me Morocco. You got to tell me where you're from. It's a big country, lots of people. So you got to tell me where you're from, okay? All right. So actually, I think Ayub is the next question. Ayub said it's equivalent to master's, so I can apply to PhD. Is it worth it? Ayub, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I fully understand the question. Can you help me understand that? Not really sure what you mean there. Landry says, yes, I'm in semester 4 of 6. Okay, cool. So Landry is referring to the data science professional degree that he's getting instead of the academic degree. So it's 6 semesters. That's a little longer than I would have thought. I would have thought it'd be more like 4 semesters. But then again, I'm assuming it's 2 semesters a year, or maybe it's 3 semesters a year. I don't know. I don't know Belgium works in that regard. Yassine says, thank you, sir. I was just asking to get an idea about the process. Yeah, I mean, this is referring back to the experimentation. Yeah, I mean, for better or worse, a lot of the process in data science is kind of like that grid searching, right? I mean, grid searching in a way is just another name for like a brute force, right? You got to try every combination, right? You know what? I can't believe. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I left this out of my podcast where I was talking about how I made the career transition into data science. Oh my gosh, I forgot this one. And this is so terrible of me to forget this. But this conversation with Yassine about talking about brute force and the computationally expensive stuff is reminding me of something that I used to do to help me build my Python skills. And this is something that you guys are welcome to try. It's very, very difficult, but it definitely helped me in terms of being able to write code and being able to write code quickly. And it also helped me a little bit with like data science. All right. So here's what I used to do. And this is, and if you guys remember, I told you that I've gone through like these study periods where I just like focus and I work. So this is how crazy I was, because in retrospect, this is kind of stupid that I did this, right? I can't believe I forgot this in the podcast. Now I'm kicking myself. All right. So on YouTube, there is a guy named Presh Talwar. Some of you guys might know him. He's a very popular channel. I think he's well over 1 million users. If not, he's very close to it. But Presh Talwar, you can look him up, big channel. And I think he's moved away from this, but maybe like 6 to 8 years ago, he would do a lot of these like statistics and probability based problems. And some of them were, you know, like fairly straightforward, you know, like if you have a basket of 20 balls and 18 of them are brown and 1 is blue and you remove 3 brown, you know, all, you know, that kind of stuff, right? But other times he'd ask like really interesting puzzles or like what do you call those? Like those brain teasers that are kind of based in math, you know, or based in statistics and probabilities, right? So great channel just to watch overall. So one of the things I used to do as an exercise is whenever one of his videos would come out or I would look in his archives, I would sit there and I would start a blank VS Code with Python ready to go. And he always starts off with like the problem statement. He gives you like 10 seconds to think about it or like a minute to think about it. And then he walks through the explanation. So his videos tend to be like 6 to 10 minutes long, right? Andres is asking, what's the channel? No, Andres. Let me tell you what I used to do before you ask for the channel, because maybe you don't want to do this. This is how stupid I was. So I would sit there and I would race him to the end of his problem. I would sit there and I would listen to the problem statement and I would start typing out the Python code that was necessary to solve the problem. And I bring that up because you can brute force most probability problems, right? Like, you know, not every problem, but and I don't even want to say like 80%, but a good majority of probability problems, you can brute force your way to an answer, right? You can sit there and you can write the iterative loops to go through a problem, right? So that was one of the exercises I used to do. I can't believe I forgot this, but I used to sit there for hours on end, just going from video to video to video, and I would race him and I would try to get to an answer before he gave the answer on the screen, right? And I would sit there and I would try to write the code for the same math problem that he's showing you how to do, right? Because some of the math can be quite involved in probabilities, right? And when you get into like some really complex probabilities problems, like the math gets like way out there, right? But you can brute force it, right? There are ways to brute force problems. You can write your own Monte Carlo style simulations to get to an answer. So I would do that and I would race him for the end of the video. So if the video was like 8 minutes long, I would have to write that video. I would write that code in less than 8 minutes or whatever the video was. It's actually a little shorter than that because I had to listen to the problem statement, right? But as soon as he started talking, I would start typing because I would say, okay, this is a problem where I'm going to need like, this type of scale, and there's going to be this many variables. I'm going to need this many loops, and you really can't do probabilities without having a lot of nested loops, right? So you have to keep track of all your nested loops and all that, and then you also have to determine how many iterations you're going to do, because when you brute force something, you have to do enough iterations to converge on the answer, right? Like if you need to go to the fourth decimal digit, you need to run a lot more iterations to kind of get closer to that convergence, right? Or at least converge into the answer that he comes up with, right? But that was one of the exercises I used to do. And again, that was like during like a really dedicated like period of I'm building my skills, right? Like I'm admitting that I don't know enough to be a data scientist. So this is what I'm going to do to build my skills. And I used to do that. And that was like a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. It was super challenging. I beat him a couple of times, right? Like, it's tough, but you feel like really good when you get one, right? Because it's not easy. But if you guys want to think about that, that's one of the exercises I used to do. You're probably not going to do that on your first day, right? But you can sit there and you can write the code for whatever he's trying to teach via math. That is possible. And it's fun. But anyway, Yassine's answer reminded me of that, because a lot of data science really is kind of like that brute force approach. You don't know what the answer is, so you try a lot of them, right? I mean, people call it grid search, but all you're doing is looping through every single combination, right? It's just a fancy word for it. Sorry, Vesh says, I think the channel's name is Mind Your Decision. Yeah, is that what he used to call it? I think you might be right. I think that's ringing a bell. But I know the guy's name for a fact is Presh Talwar. So I'm sure if you Google Mind Your Decision or his name, you'll find it. But yeah, I mean it was a lot of fun problems, and if you're looking for a source of like unique Python exercises, that's a good one, right? Because it's just a different take on it, right? And on top of that, he's not giving the Python answer. He's giving, excuse me, sorry, I don't know why I'm having an issue with that today. He doesn't give you a Python answer. He gives you a math answer, right? So you can sit there and you can kind of compare back and forth on which parts of the problem statement you didn't get correctly, right? And it also teaches you to write efficient code, because there's also a time element to it, right? You know what? I want to make a note of this in my running log, because I can't believe I haven't talked about this super powerful exercise. I mean, it'll frustrate you because it's not easy, but it's a really fun, powerful exercise. I'm gonna write that down, because I think I want to do a piece of content around that. That was a very fun, very challenging time in my life, but that's the type of stuff you have to do to build up that skill set to be a data scientist, right? I mean, think about how much more confident you'll feel going into a coding interview, or one of those silly tech interviews that they always give you, if you've already sat there and you've like simulated 50 of Presh Talwalkar's videos on your own, writing your own code under a time limit, and maybe a couple times you get the right answer. Like, that's a super powerful feeling you're going to get, right? Like, you're going to feel like super confident walking into those technical interviews, right? So something for you guys to consider. Rex says, what are your thoughts on daily exercises from platforms such as LeetCode, HackerRank, and CodeWars? Yeah, I mean, they can't hurt, right? They can't hurt, but don't put all your eggs in that basket, right? There's a lot more to data science than just solving LeetCode problems, right? I think LeetCode is perhaps a little bit more important for like computer science type of roles, like dedicated, software engineering roles. But for data science, there's a lot more to it, right? So keep that in mind. And also, as I've spoken before on this topic, and I'm going to do some content on this, maybe today or maybe sometime this weekend. When you're focusing on these standardized platforms and these standardized exercises, you're just becoming one of the crowd, right? Like, don't turn yourself into a math robot. Because if you turn yourself into a math robot, then like, how are you, like, how is somebody picking you? Like, how am I as a hiring manager picking you? Like, you're just one of many, right? Like, at that point, if that's what you do and that's what you dedicate yourself to, I'm gonna do nothing but leak code. I'm gonna know my math formulas inside and out. Okay, great, but like, now you getting a job is like winning the lottery, because you can't be distinguished among the other candidates that are also doing leak code, right? So keep that in mind. You want to balance it out. You want to do more unique stuff. Like the Presh Talwalkar stuff I like because it wasn't a data science channel, it wasn't code. Like you were still coming up with the code, right? And you still had a way to check your answer, right? Because he gives you the answer at the end, but he gives you the mathematical answer. And that's what I meant by converging on the answer. Because sometimes I would get like close to the answer, but I would get to the 10th of the answer, not the 100th or the 1000th of the answer, right? So in that process, you're also learning about like that computationally expensive time that we were talking about earlier, right? With Yassine's question. So, just keep that in mind that, kind of look for ways to make your own exercises and write your own code, your own research studies, your own articles, right? Because with leak code, you're becoming one of many. And then what? Like you're not standing out. So, if I'm a hiring manager and all I have is a bunch of leak code robots in front of me, then I'm picking like this, right? I'm just saying, yeah, we'll pick this person. Like and you as a candidate, you're playing a lottery. When you get a job, you win the lottery. It's not because you were unique. So keep that in mind, guys. Abhinav, nice to hear from you. Hey Dennis, I chose CSIOT. Is that what I'm reading right? CSIOT, is that a thing? Is that a major? As my major, and I want to know about the career options in AI and data science. Lots of options, right? Lots of options, especially if you're going to have a pretty strong coding background coming out of that, right? So now it's up to you to learn more about business and learn more about the modeling, not the modeling side, the methodology side of data science. Because you have the tools in the programming side, you'll come out with good programming skills, but when do you use them? How do you use them? Right? Or excuse me, not when do you use them, but why do you use them? Right? The code is the how, but you still need to know the why and the when. Right? So learn about business, right? Because you're gonna have to make some business impact. Computer science curriculums aren't always good about that. Computer science curriculums typically don't include a lot of business courses. So you kind of have to choose to take those as electives. But yeah, I mean, I think that a computer science degree is a fairly good background. Also, you might want to take some statistics courses, right? Some computer science programs have that, others don't. So it depends on your school. But overall, like your question of can computer science and data science be done? Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. Rex, yes, I saw that you asked this question in our Discord. And I think it was a good question, Rex. So Rex says, are data science reports the most common deliverable in data science? They are good deliverables along the way, Rex. Yes. You should be giving a lot of presentations and a lot of results to your stakeholders along the way, right? Because you want their feedback. So yes, there are a lot of deliverables as reports in data science, but it's not the only deliverable, and it's rarely the most impactful deliverable. At the end of the day, the most impactful deliverable is the algorithm. When you take the algorithm, you implement it into their process and they start to use it. That's the ultimate deliverable, right? But you should be producing a lot of reports and a lot of feedback to give to your stakeholders and then collect their feedback. So I know that's a little bit of a different answer, but I think it's an honest answer, right? That yes, they are report deliverables. You will be doing a lot of PowerPoint work, but it's not going to be your ultimate deliverable. And as I've said before, guys, you got to remember, When it comes to data science, joining a team, being out there in the workforce, no one's paying you for math formulas. No one's paying you for code. They are paying you for business impact, right? At the end of the day, it's how did your algorithm help us? Why does your team exist? Your data science team exists to help us. How did you help me? That's what the business is going to be telling you. So keep that in mind. But great question, Rex. Appreciate it. In India, there are CS majors and they're divided into many. Yeah, I get that. But I mean, like IoT is a branch. Like that's like somebody out there is like specifically has like an IoT concentration. Seems kind of weird, but like I get it, kind of, sort of. But like, yeah, I mean, I assumed that it was a concentration. I was more surprised that IoT by itself would be a concentration. That almost seems like a subset of something else, but that's just my opinion. I'm Kunal Mahajan. I'm Kunal Mahajan. Says, what do you think? How can someone start an analytics startup? What kind of analytics startup? There's a lot of them, right? Like, do you want to do like your own analytics software? Do you want to do research reports? Do you want to do analytics consulting? There's a lot of ways you can go with that, right? So maybe you have something in mind. Give me some more information. I need to hear more about that, okay? Danny, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're well, man. Hi, Dennis. What do you consider is the biggest entry barrier into DS? None. It's you. You got to put in the work to the biggest entry barrier is doing the work, I think, right? But the tools are out there, the jobs are out there, the need is out there. But I mean, you got to have a pretty high level of preparation to go into that, right? So I don't see many barriers to entry other than your own skill set, right? So don't listen to the people that say, oh, the interviews are so hard, this and it. It just means that they didn't prepare enough, right? So that's what I would advise you. Okay? The tools are out there, right? They're free. Anybody on the planet can download them, right? But it's up to you and your creativity and your dedication, your hours of putting into it, right? But as far as that, I don't see many other barriers to entry. I really don't. If you guys disagree with me on that, feel free to tell me in the chat. I know that some people feel differently about that, but you got to put in the work. Data science is a serious profession. I just really don't understand where that all started from, where people, globally, kind of decided that data science was something you can land a job in after like a month's worth of study. Like, who says that there should be a data science boot camp? Is there a surgery boot camp? Is there a lawyer boot camp? No, right? You can't. Everybody knows you can't become a surgeon in a boot camp. So what makes people think that they can become a data scientist in a boot camp, right? So that's what I think. There's just been a misconception that it can be a short time, but I think it takes dedicated study. But it's possible. It can be done. As I shared in my episode this week, I was about like 18 months to 2 years into the process before I felt comfortable putting a data scientist resume out there. Had a great resume, but it was a software developer resume. It wasn't a data science resume, right? But it was about 2 years for me to say, okay, yeah, I think I can put myself out there as a data scientist, right? Like it takes time, right? Now, I will concede that I also did it at a time when there weren't nearly as many learning resources as there are now. So maybe that time could be compressed a little. But like anybody who's telling you that they got a 1 month boot camp that turns you into a data scientist is wrong, right? And you guys see that in my content. Like I don't sell a boot camp. I'm not trying to sell you guys a 2-day workshop. Like I have a book because I'm sharing my experience. I give you my view, but like I'm not out here trying to tell you guys, yeah, come to my boot camp and you'll land a job this summer. Like that's lying to you guys. But anyways, I'll get off my high horse there. Landry says, I blame content creators. Landry, I blame them too. I tell you guys, one of my big motivations for doing this is because I see that there's not enough content creators who have like actual experience, like live experience in the field. They're basically just people who can't get a job in anything else, so they're jumping on the AI bandwagon and coming up with content, right? With cheap content. Like how many faceless AI Instagram accounts are there out there? Because they haven't done the work, right? They can't show themselves because they haven't done the work. They're using ChatGPT to come up with their content, right? So that motivates me to try to bring you guys like the real world of what's actually happening out there, right? So yeah, I think you're right, Landry. It's a lot of it is content creators that have created that dream as a product. And that's why they sell it to you as a product, because they're trying to make money, because they can't make money at anything else, right? They can't make money in data science on their own, right? I mean, that's kind of like the reality of that. All right, so Yassine says, hello again, sir. Can you please give some advice to write a professional article, including ways of assuring reliable sources for research to not result in misleading information? Okay, first of all, love the fact that you're looking at articles, right? Great way to boost your resume, great way to boost your presence. When I talk about don't do leak code, find ways to stand out, articles are a great way to do that, right? And as I've said before, I've never once checked anybody's GitHub in my life, but if you include an article in your resume, I am very likely to check that. Like, I love reading LinkedIn articles, right? So if you say, here's an article I wrote, I'm gonna read it. I don't care about your GitHub. I don't care how green your GitHub is, but you send me an article. Okay, I want to know about you before I interview you, right? So first of all, great job on that. Second of all, don't worry about the second part, about the reliable sources for research. You are the source, right? You should be writing about studies that you did, right? So you are the source. So the second part of your question shouldn't even come into account, right? The best articles are going to have a very simple format. And maybe I'll do another little workshop on this. I did a workshop for resumes, but maybe a workshop on articles would be good. Very simple format, right? Tell me what the problem is, right? Tell me what the problem is and what sparked it. I read this article about X and it raised this question in my mind, right? That's it. Just tell me what you're going after, right? What inspired you? What is your thesis? Why am I reading your article? Right? Second portion, tell me about how you got your data. Like, how are you collecting your observations? I read this article and I'm using the data that they provided because the authors make raw data available. Or I wrote this little piece of code to give me a synthetic data set. Or even, hey, I use ChatGPT to generate a synthetic data set for me. That's totally okay, right? But show me that you've acquired a good number of observations. Third section, what did you try? What are the different models that you tried? I tried linear regression, I tried neural networks, and I tried gradient boosting, and I chose neural networks. Here's why. Right? Tell me how you got to the solution. And now what is it? Fourth section, tell me the results from the neural network or, from your model. What did your model tell you, right? I ran 500 epochs with 7 different variations on the data. Here's what the neural network told me, right? And in the last section, the fifth section, here's what my results mean for business impact. I'm going to take these results and I think I can apply it to this industry, and here's what it can do for this industry. And that's it. That's 5 paragraphs I just laid out for you guys, right? So that's a 5-paragraph LinkedIn article that you could do to help your resume. Now, I know you're going to ask, well, what if I have the wrong conclusion? Or other people have sent me messages, private messages, and they tell me, well, I'm afraid of putting my work out there. Right? And I get it, right? I get it, because when you are writing articles on your own, you could always run into a problem that you don't realize, right? And it is scary to do that, right? But one, you're going to get better with it over time. You're going to get more comfortable with it over time. But really what matters is that it's not about what you write, it's about the process you follow, right? And that's why I'm laying it out to you like this. Because if you can show me that, then you've shown me that you followed a perfectly reasonable way to conduct a study. And that's really what you should be looking for, both at this stage in your career and two, for these types of articles, right? When you're trying to showcase your work, it's more about showing the methodology and process you followed, right? So if you can show me that, then you can set yourself up in a situation where your results don't even matter, right? Like it's more about hey, this person knows how to think and how to structure through a project. Like the good managers, the ones you want to work with, will recognize that, right? Like they'll say yeah, okay, I can see how it's a reasonable approach to the problem. You're way wrong on the conclusion, but I agree with your rationale. And that person will still be okay with you, right? Like they're not going to dock you for that. The ones that do dock you for that are they're the bad managers you probably don't want to work for, right? So don't worry about the results. It's more about clearly showing a process that you followed and saying, here, these are my skills, and this is the rationale, and this was my line of thinking, or how to approach this problem, right? And again, I'm sharing stuff that I used to do. These are the articles that I used to write, right? Like I would do a bunch of EDAs, and some of them turn into models, and some of those turn into articles. And you kind of got to have a funnel like that for yourself to be able to have those ideas that you can work on. And I post some of these in the Discord or on my Instagram, because I come across articles now where I think to myself, man, I would have totally written something on this. This is a great article. And right now I'm at the point where I can see all the pieces in my head in no time, right? And you'll get to that point. But it's all about laying out the process you're going to follow. It's not about you're not trying to regurgitate a white paper, right? If you're worried about making citations, you're doing it wrong, right? It's about using your own work. It's about putting your own work out there, your own process, your own rationale out there, okay? So I hope that helps you, Yasin. Okay, so I'm Kunal Mahajan says, I want to start analytics consulting. Okay. The hard part about analytics consulting is you got to know so many packages nowadays, right? Because there's some really, really good analytics packages out there now, right? You got to know Power BI, you got to know Tableau, you got to know MicroStrategy. In some cases, you have to know how to do your own dashboards, right? You just learn a visualization framework, and then you got to come up with your own dashboards and your own way to present all of those components, right? So it really depends. It really depends. Also, it's very hard to do analytics consulting as an individual, I think. If I was an individual, I think analytics consulting would be one of the last ones that I would choose. Because you'd have to, the thing about analytics consulting, Kunal, is that, you have to show that you're bringing something really special to the client, right? Because the thing is that all clients think they can do analytics, and they all think they can do it well. Right? Whether they suck at it or not, who cares? But they all think that they're really good at it. So that's the problem you're going to run into, where people are going to say, well, you have to show me that you're bringing 10x the value because I got 5 guys that on my analytics team already. Right? So I don't want to sound discouraging to you, but that's the part that would kind of make me hesitate. You would need to be able to walk in and say, I can cover every single analytics platform you're using. I've got 3 people that are just absolutely killers when it comes to analytics, and I can deliver for you in 2 weeks. That's what a client's going to have to hear from you before, if they don't hear that from you, they're going to say, nah, we're just going to give it to the summer intern who kind of sort of knows Power BI, because they think that's what analytics is, right? So that's what I would think, that's kind of the challenge around that. So again, I hate to sound discouraging, but I've done consulting on my own. I've had to go out and get my own clients, right, which is not always easy. But that's what I would say with analytics. It's going to be an uphill walk. Yassine says, "Thank you, sir. Really appreciate your guidance." Yeah, you're welcome. And just to kind of tie everything together, when we're talking about the creators and I give you these things because these are things I used to do. Like I'm giving you my experience, right? Like I literally used to sit there and look at articles and write them for LinkedIn. I had my own blog, but like this is what I used to do, and I know it works because this is what led to me, building up and being able to work, as a data scientist. So I think a lot of creators don't really do that. They don't have that experience. So in turn, they can't give you the scope of what it takes, like the time it takes, right? To kind of become a professional in the field, and it is a professional field. I always emphasize that. I'm very proud of this. So it really annoys me when people try to cheapen the field and say, "Oh, data scientist, you can do that in 2 months." Like, no, you can't. So, anyways, really appreciate that. All right, well, that sounds like a good positive note to close out on. Thank you all so much for spending some time with me. Really appreciate the good questions today. This weekend tomorrow is Saturday. And then Sunday, we are back to the Introduction to Statistical Learning book, 1500 GMT. We are halfway through the book. It's halfway through the sessions. This one is going to be really interesting. Bring your thinking caps. We're going to start doing more of like the serious data science work. Really look forward to seeing you guys there. Thanks again for spending time with me. Take care of yourselves and your families, and I'll see you next time.